Impromptu Speaking. All right, Moataz. Impromptu Speaking is when I give you 3 topics. You select one. You get 1 minute to think about it and 2 minutes to speak about it.
I love this this saying. I mean, there's so many of them out there, but I truly am inspired by what I'm reading here because I feel like I'm going through this in my current chapter. That a lot of things that people talk about when they talk about big projects or big initiatives, or I'm going to start, losing weight, or I'm going to save money. It's such a big and monstrous event that they just can't get started, can't get motivated. They're scared of the commitment. But I like this saying because I have one of my own, and that is, how do you eat an elephant? And people think, what the hell is he talking about? Well, it's the same thing as this. The answer is one bite at a time. If you understand that concept, then you can eat an elephant. You can do an amazing feat that you never thought you could do if you just break it down into bite-sized pieces, or in this saying, it begins with a single step. That single step is very important because it starts your intention to begin something. You are embracing something new, a new challenge. You're putting yourself in an area of uncomfortability for the long haul because you do know that in the end there will be some good. You are embracing the struggle to get change. And I just think it's a very powerful thing. It has nothing really to do with one thing in particular. It has to do sometimes with relationships. You got to start them over. Work. You have to get a new career. Or just in your head, you have to think a different way. It starts with a single step.
Yeah, I like the way you described it. Well done. The way you talk remind me of that Japanese concept of compartmentalizing, because all of life can be very overwhelming. And if you look at it all as a whole, you'll never get anything done. You would just be burdened by the sheer vastness of it all. So you look at everything in compartments. So right now I'm going to think about this, but then I'm going to close the door of that and then think about this. So that's kind of the same idea. It's like if we look at it in smaller segments and single steps and single bite-sized pieces, then it becomes manageable all of a sudden.
Yes.
And it's funny you say that because I'm about to join a gym today and go on my journey of health and strengthening myself. What do you think, Moataz? Is it too late for us to become buff at our age?
I don't think so, because the new definition of buff is the body that we have called the dad bod. I don't know why that is, but I think to women, it's the same concept as when a man looks at a woman that's too polished, her hair is too straight. It's always colored, and she's looking very manicured, and she's unapproachable. Well, the women have the same thing. I mean, when they see a man who is physically fit, he's wearing nice clothes, he is affluent, he has a nice car, immediately that triggers how he's going to treat you. So to a woman, they look at what's pleasing to the eye as, oh, but that's not going to be pleasing to all the other set of requirements that I have. So it's not about settling, it's about realizing that the guy with the dad bod has values. He can manage money. He has a full-time job. He's good with children. His body shapes his behavior. He doesn't spend an enormous amount of time in the gym. He actually spends time with his kids. Look at him. So I think that it's not too late for people like me and you to get buff, but let's define what buff is, because buff has changed.
We're already buff. We're just going to look for some muscles. We're going to add some muscles to it. All right. Okay, I like that. But back to the topic of a journey of 1,000 miles, the other aspect is I find that first step is the hardest one to take. if it's 1,000 miles, the very hardest step is the first one. And taking it takes courage. It's kind of like overcoming your own fear, right? And that step brings you halfway to the goal. And so if you can take the first step, you'll find every step after that to be easier and easier.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, just on a personal, when I used to travel, people would say, don't go to that place, you're going to get killed, it's awful there, it's terrible. And I used to be almost paralyzed with fear to arrive at a certain place. But the moment you arrive and take that first step, suddenly it all falls into place and you realize this isn't so bad. And I think that
Well,
if we have the courage to take that first step, you'll
it's
find that
because
a lot of things
nobody
will just
wants
fall
to
into
start
place.
anything new, whether they believe it's good or not. They tell you that there's a new program you're going to start at work tomorrow, Monday. Immediately it puts a sour note on your day, because you're comforted right now with the ability to navigate some certain current systems. And as soon as they tell you, well, this is all going to change on Monday, immediately that sets out a dreaded weekend, because you're like, the fear is going to set in. What if I don't know what I'm doing? What if this is going to add hours to my day? What if I just enjoy the current system? Like, there's a lot of fear mongering in general with change, but the
It actually
true
just brings to
people,
light. Sorry,
what's
go
that?
ahead.
The true people that know the definition of change know that change promotes growth
Yeah,
in every
yeah,
aspect.
yeah. It's just another one of the paradoxes, because all of life and being a human being is just a big paradox, because it's always, everything is the opposite of what it seems. And on one hand, we are creatures of habit. That's true. Human beings are creatures of habit. On the other hand, everything is always changing, and you have no
Yeah,
business being a creature of habit.
everything is always changing, and that's the only constant out there right now. It's change,
Yeah.
always,
And I
everywhere.
guess those of us who can adapt to change, constant change, are going to be the happiest and most well-adjusted people.
Well, my manager calls it learning IQ. And learning IQ means how readily you're able to adapt to change and still perform.
Yeah.
It's like a fighter. A fighter comes in and, all he knows is one discipline, or he's really good at wrestling, and all of a sudden somebody's standing up and punching him in the face. What does his fighting IQ tell him? To change or continue doing what's not working? You have to
Yeah.
change
I
to be
like that
successful.
analogy. I like that analogy because you could easily be talking about debating in the same way, right? I'll use that in class.